Hi, I'm Jack Berkowitz. I'm the Chief Data Officer with Securiti.ai, and really happy to be here today with Mano Mannoochahr, who's the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Travelers. Mano, welcome to our discussion.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. So before we get into questions and everything, maybe just quickly tell everybody about who you are, your background, things like that, and then we'll dive in.
Of course, I've got probably close to almost 3 decades of technology background. Grew up in mostly, I would say, industrial companies, and then over the last 5 years or so, made a switch to financial and insurance industry because that's where all the great action is happening, right, with the data and AI. So, I've had a good 5 year run in the last here at Travelers.
That's awesome. So really, like you said it, all the action's happening. So what are you most passionate about in your work right now?
I would say in the midst of the transformation that we're seeing being driven through data and AI, I think that's of course on everybody's mind. But I think from my perspective, the thing that really excites me is really ensuring that we're creating and delivering business value in a methodical way. I think if you look at some of the stats as far as cross industry stats, typically most of the inefficiency and waste in the system isn't really the organizational friction or the organizational bureaucracy. It really comes from not being able to connect your investments to really where the value creation opportunity is, understanding your end user needs. So for me, it's my passion lies in making sure that we are maniacally focused on delivering better business outcomes, taking care of our customers, agents, and brokers, as well as of course, our own workforce and employees, and just making sure we've got the right constructs, the right linkages that is linking every piece of the work that we've got going on, and being able to say, okay, are we moving the needle for the business? Are we investing in the right places and the absolute best and the greatest opportunities that are out there? And I would say that all the way from kind of frontline solutions to the foundational investments that you might be making, there's always an opportunity to link those to actual business priorities and strategic priorities in the organization that you may have. Because I do think that if you can get that right, that's where the real fun begins, right? Because you start to see the impact of the work, from an organizational perspective, throughout, the levels of the organization, and be able to say, okay, did we move the needle or not? And, are there better opportunities that we should be working towards? So,
Yeah. So we can go into the business value things and we'll get there, but to do that, you really had to build a team, right? And then you have to measure that, you know, how you guys are doing that. So I want to collapse a couple of ideas together. So, how do you develop your data talent to be not just fascinated by the technology, but understand the business? And then at the same time, how do you gauge the effectiveness of the team that you're putting together?
yeah, yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's you would agree the pace of change is absolutely wicked out there, right? And you have to be able to keep up, whether it's the skills, whether it's the technology, to be able to really capitalize on the opportunities that the advancements of technology is creating. I think, there's a saying that we kind of live by, that I think came out of GE, which is, ensuring that the rate of change inside of your organization matches or exceeds the rate of change around you. And I think that's an area that, we think a lot about, and it of course comes in all forms and shapes. It could be, to your point, ensuring that your talent is being upgraded, and they're gaining the skills that they need to have. You're bringing in fresh and new skills where you got an opportunity to do that, and absolutely ensuring that that upskilling is happening aligned to the business value opportunities you've got ahead of you. Because a lot of times, if you're not careful, you could train somebody, but they don't have an opportunity to apply those. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to be time those appropriately and make sure you got your talent is ready, and they have an opportunity to apply. And I think, of course, that goes beyond just the talent pieces. Is making sure that you're advancing your technology stack. You're keeping an eye on the quote unquote the technical debt that you might be accumulating, right? If you're not careful in investing appropriately in your foundational infrastructure and technologies that really have a give you that long term payback and long term horizon. But if you're not careful, of course, that can set you back. And I think that's no different than for talent. You've got to make sure that you're creating the opportunities for learning. That's an important aspect of that equation as well, because if you're not giving your organization the space and the tools and the opportunity, your day-to-day priorities will really eat into that part of the
It's interesting, it's interesting you talk about the opportunity. Um, you know, companies, and you can say what you want about the economy, the ups and downs, but one of the areas that companies always, well, we're going to cut people going to conferences, and we're going to cut, people going to training sessions. Actually, next week I'm going to a big conference, and, and I always find that to be short-sighted, right?
Mhm,
I
mhm.
always want my teams to get out there to be able to understand things. If anything, so that they can bring back those use cases to talk, maybe not internally, but across the organization. And so, you know, that's always something that I'm always struggling with, that balance between, how do you apply your resources to be able to be most effective, you know?
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah. I think that's just an absolutely must that you've got to understand how you're investing in your people. How are you ensuring that they're able to keep up and adapt as well as deliver on the capability that you're asking. They've got the right skills. I think that's a no-brainer. And I think goes beyond the practitioner's talent, right? I mean, that I think it's a well-known fact, externally known from a traveler's perspective, that we have heavily invested in the data culture, within our broader organization that goes beyond the practitioners. We're talking about business leaders and functions other than data analytics and technology. We've had that data culture growth happening over the last a good portion of that 5 years, where we have sent thousands of people through actual training sessions that are anywhere from between 60 and 90 minutes that really help them understand how data is important to our business, how data that they may be creating one place is needed and used by a different part of the organization,
Uh,
or how data's got a life that measured sometimes in decades, right, for us to ensuring that you've got quality at the time of creation of that data, and of course you're curating that into a better and better asset for the business.
Yeah, that's amazing when you think about it, because that helps you get traversal across the organization, right? It's not just about the data analytics team, it's really about the entire company moving down a path
Mm-hmm.
together, right? I can't go more than 6 minutes, or, or at
Yeah.
least an hour without having a conversation with somebody about generative AI. Where are you guys at? And what sort of use cases, or what can you talk about? And then, successes, things you're proud of. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think this is one of those areas that we've got a long history of course, using data analytics in general in our core product space, right? If you can imagine, you can't be in an insurance business and not have the core data analytics capabilities. So we've got an organization that prides itself in our maturity and capabilities that exists across travelers in the data analytics space. Certainly, over the course of the last 5+ years, we have now expanded that to include more modern and more advanced form of analytics, quote unquote AI, that is really starting to give us an opportunity to expand that across all parts of the business beyond just product risk segmentation that where you typically would do, right? And we're really building and applying those capabilities to our frontline work, and whether that's our well known models that help us understand potentially damage to our insured properties during a wildfire event, or during a wind event, right, like a tornado, or a anything related to wind damage that the properties may suffer. And I think if you think about it, we've got a capability now that allows us to be able to fly imagery on an impacted area after an event. And then overnight, our AI models have gone through that imagery and have isolated, type of damage that our properties may have incurred, right? Our insured properties may have incurred, whether or not that's minor roof damage to maybe a complete loss of an, property, right? And of course, that allows us to be able to position our workforce appropriately in the morning, after, and be able to really reach out proactively to our customers. And in some cases, when we have seen complete loss of a property, we would start preparing claim on customers' behalf before they even had a chance to even return to their own neighborhoods, where there may be smoldering fires that may have prevented them from going. So I think it really allows us to give us a chance to that be very proactive with our
Well,
customers.
I mean, and just think about it. You're helping somebody's,
Hmm.
normally, families at a really critical point in their journey, one that they probably never anticipated. And
Hmm.
that, that gets us out of the data room and actually into people's lives.
Correct.
Uh, and that bridge is just, fundamental. That's a
Yeah.
pretty amazing capability, because it wasn't even possible a year or two ago, or maybe 5 years ago, right? Been great to have you on the discussion, um, and super happy. So again, I'm Jack Berkowitz from Security AI, Chief Data Officer. I'm here with Mano Mannoochahr, who's a Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Travelers, based in Hartford, Connecticut. And thank you for your time. Really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Jack, thank you for having me. This was great. I know we could talk about this stuff for hours, but I appreciate the time.
Thank you.